Good morning, dear Stitchers. I'm already struggling to talk, and I've just begun. This is Judy Whitman with JBW Designs, and this is Flosstube number 41. And my title today is, again, Christmas in July. I'm going to overload you with ornaments. You wouldn't believe how many piles I have here, but you seem to be enjoying seeing them and seeing the finishing. So I want to, first of all, acknowledge the fact that we have reached together over 3,000 subscribers. And this has been a goal of mine for a while, and I can't tell you how happy that made me. I can't explain why that number sounded so good, but I'm so grateful to all of you who watch, who take the time to comment, who write letters to me. You are just amazing, and I'm actually quite humbled that I have that many followers. I feel like I need to keep going, but I want the content to be good for you. So I have a lot to tell you about today. It's always exciting when I make my plans, and first of all, I want to talk about. Let me backtrack a minute. I think that the way that I got to 3,000 subscribers was through not only you taking an interest in the channel, but so many other Flosstubers who are talking about what I do and mentioning my products. And I'll mention all their names later, but that I'm just so grateful. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So the first thing I want to cover today is the mail that I've received. And I just love getting letters. It's kind of a lost art, isn't it? But I got a darling little card from Ginny thanking me for some products that I'd sent to her. I got another lovely note from Cheryl. Let's see, she was out in California. I think it's always so interesting to read where everybody is watching from. And then I got a lovely note from Davy, and she's in Washington. And her card was perfect today because, do you see, it has hydrangeas on it, and I went out this morning after breakfast and picked a lovely bouquet to bring up to my office to have in the background. The hydrangeas this year are amazing. The bushes, they're so heavy that they're falling to the ground, and it is nothing to do with my gardening skills. It is just there are years when I have 3 blooms on all of the hydrangea bushes. So this is quite amazing. So thank you for your sweet card and your note. And then I had a 4th card that just really made me smile. So let me give you some background. A couple of weeks ago, I think it was 2 episodes ago, I talked about a woman named Jessie. And she had written to me and said that she was in a nursing home and loved to stitch, but had no stitching supplies. Her niece had probably emptied her house. I'm not sure what had happened. But anyhow, I put out kind of a call for let's try to help Jessie. And I sent her a package, and several other people, quite a few actually, sent her packages too. And I just received a note, and I was so tickled. So this is her little note. It says, "Thanks a bunch." And she's drawn a few little drawings on the note. And then this was her note. "Judy, may you have your star in heaven for all the good you have done. Blessings, Jessie Charles." And then she wrote, "I'm spending a lot of late nights stitching." And isn't that just the best news? It makes me so pleased that we were able to help her, because I kept thinking, what if that was me and I didn't have what I love to do? Or you know how you would feel too. And then her other note on the other side said, "Your kindness meant more than you'll ever guess." So that was just, I'm so delighted that we were able to make a difference in somebody's life. I think maybe that's what life is all about, is the kindness that we can share. So let's see. I had a number of questions and comments that I want to address from the last video. And I think these are good things to cover because maybe you've been wondering about them also. So the first question had to do with my Ornament Collection booklets. And last week, or last time I filmed, I showed you the newest one, which was the Ornament Collection 4. And one of our viewers asked if, oh, here we go, my little hoarse throat. I start talking and then I get very hoarse. So she wanted to know if, because there are 4 booklets, are all the ornaments that are in the booklets different? And the answer is yes. So each booklet, there are 4 in the series, obviously. Each booklet contains 20 ornaments. So if you had all 4 booklets, you'd have 80 ornaments. So each ornament book is completely different. The other question that came up is that someone wondered if these were in a PDF file. And I'm sorry to say they are not yet, but maybe down the road I will think about doing that, because I know for some people that would really help you out. And then another question had to do with the stockings that I showed in the last video. So I had mentioned to you and showed you some samples that in total, you can see I have 15 stocking patterns. And this person wanted to know, again, that was kind of a similar question, are all the stockings in one book? No, they're not. They're all separate. So there's only one in each pattern. However, she kind of gave me an idea, and it won't happen right away, but maybe going forward, I will think about doing perhaps 2 collection books. So I put half the stockings excuse me, in one book and then the other half in the second book. So that's definitely a plan. And that reminds me, I love when I get ideas from you. So if you have suggestions for things that you think I could improve upon, or designs that you are looking for or want to see me tackle, or suggestions like the combining the patterns, please let me know. I love getting ideas, and I think all designers feel that way. It kind of inspires us, and I can't promise you that I'll use them all, of course, but I definitely would read them all. So then another question came up, and I thought this was really a good one. She wanted to know if 14 count Aida is equivalent to 28 count linen, and yes, it is. And so if I can just explain for those maybe who don't know about the conversion from Aida to linen. When you're stitching on linen, of course, you're stitching over 2 threads. And so you divide that linen count, which is 28, by 2, and that comes out to 14. So 14 count Aida and 28 count linen are the same thing. And so I thought that I actually pulled out some ornaments. This is ornament overload, I warned you, that are stitched on a 28 count, so that I can show you what the size looks like and what it would look like if you were stitching those very same ornaments on Aida. And then the last question had to do with my comments about finishing. And this gal asked about comic board. And I think if you go back to some of my other videos and look maybe for finishing ideas, I talk about this a lot. And I know that this looks very thin to you, but it's actually sturdier than poster board. And it is another option that you could use, of course, is mat board. And you can see hopefully here, mat board is quite a bit thicker. It's trickier to cut because you really have to cut it with a knife. It's very hard to cut mat board with a scissor. And so her question had to do with, is mat board sticky board? And no, it's not. It's just plain on both sides. And what I do is I cut out my shape out of the comic board, and then I use either fabric glue or a double-sided roll of tape to attach the design. And I'll just hold up one for an example. So here is one of the little ornaments. It's been stitched on 28 count over 2. So this is the size that your ornament would be if you stitched it on Aida. Again, it would be the same size. So I would make a template of the shape of this piece. I would cut it out of my comic board, actually I'd cut 2 boards, because one is going to be used to cover your design, and then the other board is going to be used to do your backing. And then I would either sew or glue those together. And let's see, what other hints can I give you? I've talked about this before, so I hate to repeat too much, but I also want to explain how the comic board works. And then to make it a little puffier, you can always add, let me lay this down, a layer of batting, a couple layers of felt. I often use felt because it's easy to cut and glue. And that's how you can finish your ornament yourself. So let's go and look at a couple of more ornaments that I pulled out. And I didn't go back and double check to see what Ornament Collection booklet these are in, but if you're curious to know, I'd be happy to look it up. And I'm looking for something, and I'm trying to think of what it is. Oh, I know, I have a pile of books someplace. Did I pull them out? Ah, here they are, right in front of me. So I'm going to show you a couple more of ornaments that are stitched on 28 count over 2. And this is what many of the ornaments in the collection booklet came from, old patterns that were either out of print, they are not being sold as often because they're older patterns, or I've created new ones. So a long time ago, I actually started a series called the Christmas Tree Collection. And many of these are in the books that I talked about. In the Christmas Tree Collection, each book was a tree, and there were 2 designs in it, and I show it stitched over 2 and stitched over 1. And so I think I'm up to, I'm trying to think of the last one. I think the last one was Christmas Tree Collection 10, or I'm sorry, 9. And I am doing a new Christmas Tree Collection booklet for the upcoming show in August. So that's just a little, I haven't shown you the ornaments, but it's a sneak peek. So here is an ornament, again, stitched on a 28 count linen. So that would be the same as Ada. And the finisher who did this for me, again, did just a fabulous job. She's mounted it on wool. She's mounted the design as a round instead of a triangle. She has added, I want to show this to you up close, some little French knots around each of the scallops, some little felt balls below here, a ribbon, and then a little tie. I mean, the finishing is just amazing. So I thought I'd show you 3 more that are worked on a 28 count linen. So here's another one. It's trees within trees. And that again is worked on a 28. Here's another one. Well, let's see, this was in tree 6. This was finished with a ruched ribbon edging. And you can go online to any of the gals that do Flosstube videos about finishing. Vanna Pfeiffer, of course, does just fabulous videos. But ruched ribbon is like a ribbon that is gathered. And in this case, my finisher has put little pins with beads on them between each little loop of the ribbon. So that's another one on 28, and here's the last one of this series that I'm going to show you of the trees. And again, this was done on a 28 count with the same finish as the previous ones. So I thought that would be important to tell you about, because I want to encourage you. In fact, somebody wrote to me last time and said, I was so tickled, that she had been working on 18 count Ada, and that I had encouraged her to try 28 count linen. And she said, I'm doing it. And I thought, yay, this is exactly what I wanted to. I want to encourage you all, not only for your stitching, but your finishing also. So what is my next topic? My next topic is going to be, I've talked to you about this before, I have a Friends of JBW Designs Facebook page. And you can join that page by just going onto your Facebook, asking to join. They ask it asks a couple questions, but if you don't want to answer them, that's okay. Everybody gets in. But what that allows you to do is to vote in the contest that I have. So about every 2 weeks, I put a picture up on Facebook. I meant to do it on Instagram, forgot to. And I choose 3 of my designs and I say, what's your favorite? And so people vote, and then I use the random number generator from the number of people who have voted, read all your comments, of course, and then I choose someone to win all 3 patterns. So it's kind of a fun little contest. So in the contest this week, I again featured a Christmas, because we're doing Christmas in July, and I chose 3 designs that I have. And you know, some of these are older, but the interesting thing, I got a good comment too about that. People said to me, you know, she'd gone through years when she couldn't afford to buy patterns. So some of the things I'm showing, people have never even seen before. So I'm not sure that you care whether it's old or new. It's fun to see what they look like. So this particular pattern was called French Country Wreath. And this is the ornament. So this was one of the 3 that I wanted you to select. And again, the finishing on this is something that you could do. You would cover a flat disc with fabric for the back of the piece, and then you would cover your design using, again, the comic board if that's what you wanted to do, or mat board. And then this just has a twisted cording edging on it. So French Country Wreath was one of the designs, and I always try to list the things that I show in my comment section below my video when it's done. So the second design that people were voting on is called Peace on Earth. And this is what the booklet looks like. And I did quite a few models of this. In fact, you can see on the front that this I did as an easel. And then I did it, this one was worked over 2. And I just used a rickrack trim and bows up at the up at the top. I'm pointing in the wrong direction. And then this one again used the rickrack. This one was stitched over 1. It was mounted on one board, and then a second board was used for the backing. A third board was used to mount the design, and then the rickrack was used along the edges, and a little bow at the top. So that was the second design in the contest this week, and I haven't closed the contest yet. I just posted it a couple days ago, so I will leave it open probably at least until next week. And then the third design in the contest, another red piece, was French Country Santa. These little horn books I ordered from, I think, Kelmscott years ago. I am not able to get them any longer, but there are a number of companies that are doing horn books now, or wooden paddles to mount your pieces on. So I would check those out. Stitch Etc. is one. And then I just found another one yesterday on Etsy, and I'm going to have to look for that name. But here is the French Country Santa. He's been worked over 1 with a twisted cording as the trim on the edge. And then I also did a second model of the Santa, and this one was fun to do. I actually mounted him as, this one was stitched over 2, and I mounted him, or finished it as a little bag. And I love how that finish turned out. And you could leave off the writing on the bottom if you didn't want to do that, or put a child's name on it. So those were the 3 that were in the contest this week. So that's our next topic. All right, keep moving on. All right, I have, as I've shown you in the past, purchased maybe a month or so ago. This piece is actually very fragile. So I've shown you this before. This was an antique sampler that I purchased, as I say, about a month or 6 weeks ago at a antique show nearby. And it's very rare, actually, that I find samplers there, so I was very excited when I found it. The interesting thing is, I peeled this back today. It's, as I say, it's fragile because the backing board is kind of flaking off. But it's so interesting. On the inside of the backing board, you won't be able to read it unless I read it. It's very light. It says Easter greetings from Miss Collins, which is confusing to me because the name on the sampler is Melinda Ferrell. And I have done some research on Melinda, and I haven't found out a lot, but I do know because the frame had a tag on it that she lived near Troy, New York. And I need to do more research. I'm not sure how far I'm going to be able to go, but I did find out that she married. Her husband's name was Jameson, and they had 7 boys. So that was quite fascinating. So this design, let me get a board here so you can see it. You can see I haven't finished it yet. It's going to be mounted on a hornbook or a wooden paddle. I actually stitched it over 1 on a 32 count fabric. And I love the colors that Melinda used. Isn't it interesting that her original sampler, for some reason the light is getting very dark here, it was a square, and yet when I stitched it, which shows her stitch count horizontally and vertically must have been different on her woven linen fabric, but when I stitched it, it came out as a vertical piece. But I love the colors. Just 4 colors, a dark brown, a couple of teal blues, 3 shades. And the only change that I made when I charted it is that in her original piece, she stitched, let me hold that up again, she stitched everything over 2 except for her name, and that was stitched over 1. And in order to get her name on my over 1 conversion, I charted it so that if you wanted to stitch it over 2 when you stitched that sampler on a higher count linen, over 2 you'd have room to put the name in a row as she stitched it. On the over 1 sampler, of course, I had to change it just a little bit, and so I charted it, brought by Melinda Ferrell, age 12. So what I did find out is that she was born in 1801, so it would have been 1813 when this piece was done, which is quite remarkable. So that's always interesting. I love working on the antique samplers. I have another one that I'm getting ready to start, but I'm waiting for fabric to arrive. So my Christmas in July, what do I have to show you? I thought this might be kind of fun to take ornaments from each book, since there are 4 collections, and show you just, not for a long time, I don't want to bore you to death, several ornaments from each of the collections. So first I pulled out book number 1. Now my goal in the beginning was to have a different spiral binding. I don't do any editing, so we just have to accept my goofs, right? To have a different spiral binding, I'm still struggling, on each booklet. So I started out with red. The second one was supposed to be green, but then we ran into the old problems of supply chains. So I'll show you that in a minute. I've had trouble getting the green binding. The third binding book is in white, and the last one is in silver. So I was trying to differentiate between the 4. So this is the collection 1, and so I pulled out 3 different ornaments to show you from that book. And the ornaments I'm showing you are stitched over 1, but I showed you what they looked like over 2 so that I don't discourage you. I want to say to you, you can do them over 1 if you want to. You can do them over 2, absolutely. So here's one of the little mittens. Looks very Scandinavian to me. And once again, to get a mitten shape, I would place your design down on your computer and just make a paper copy of the mitten shape. And then I would do a drawing around the edge, leaving a border of about 3/8 of an inch. And that becomes your template for cutting out and finishing your ornament all by yourself. So that was one of the ornaments in the book. This was another one, and I was trying to remember which booklet this originally came from. So I told you that I use a lot of my older patterns, and I had a series called Scandinavian Ornaments 1, 2, and 3. I'm trying to remember, I think there were 3 ornaments in each booklet. I have a few of those booklets left in stock, but not many. So I chose this little one, which I love. It's just the very traditional Scandinavian hearts in a heart shape. And again, you just have to make a circle to do your finishing. Choose fabric for the back. This has a real pretty little eyelash trim that's in with the twisted cording. And then the third ornament from that book that I wanted to show you is just a set of stars that form a tree. And this is finished in the same way with the ruched ribbon on the edges. So those are 3 that were featured in book number 1. Alrighty, let's set that aside. You know, I thought I should tell you, and I know you can tell from my voice when I listen back to my videos to see what I need to learn from them. Sometimes my voice gets very low and slow, and I think it's because I was a first grade teacher, and even though I haven't done that for years, I don't think that form of speech ever leaves you, so I hope it doesn't bug you to death. So this is the Ornament Collection Book 2. And as I say, it's supposed to be a green binding, but we ran out of greens for a while. And here are 3 different ornaments from that booklet. So this was originally in a French country, I think it was called English Plum Pudding was the name of the book. And in the original one, it actually had the words plum pudding below it. I should have grabbed that model. But this time I left the wording off. And again, it's the French country style, which means it has all kinds of symbols used in the middle of the design. And again, to find this shape, just make a copy, and then you can finish your ornament. So this is what the back looks like. And then another ornament in that book was the Joy, which is a very quick stitch. And this, again, you could probably stitch in an evening because it's so small. This was finished with a little chenille on the edges. And then the third one that I'm going to show you from that book was from one of the Christmas tree collection books. And this uses kind of like almost like an organdy ribbon that you can get at Hobby Lobby. And again, that's used with the ruched ribbon edging. So those were 3 from book 2. All right, I have 3 or 4 from book 3 to show you. So book 3, as I mentioned, has a white binding, and there are 20 ornaments in it. And last week, people really liked the Santa that I showed, which was made up of different motifs. This little, I'm sorry, he's not a Santa, he's a snowman, is made up of letters. And I finished this with just a polka dot ruched ribbon. And I just have a note on the back that it's from book 3, so you can see the backing. Sometimes I'm sending some of these ornaments off to shops for trunk shows, so it's nice if I can identify which book they came from. This is another one that appears in book 3, which is again a little tree with hearts. This probably, I can't remember, it doesn't tell me which tree book it came from. Here's another tree that happens to be in book 3. And you could also add a date and initials on any of these if you're giving them away. And this is another one. So I showed you the round one that was large. I'm going to pull that off here. So I showed you this one, which was in book 9 or 10, I think it was 9. So here is the same, similar design in the same booklet that has been worked over 1. And the finisher mounted it, this is so clever, again on wool. And it's almost like a button. She covered a button to make that nice and puffy. And then she just tied it to a little plastic candy cane. And I just love that finish. I just think it's so unique. So those 4 patterns that I just showed you were from book 3. And then I thought I would pull out a few more from the newest collection to show you what they look like. It's always fun to see them in person, I think. So here is, trying to think, this, I had a booklet, I'm trying to think of what it was called. Now I remember. It was called Sweet Christmas Bags. And let me switch ornaments here. So I actually finished it kind of as a little sweet bag. I just thought that would be, it could be a darling ornament to hang on the tree. You could just put a hook through the top of it. So to make this, you would just have to stitch a seam along both sides and have your linen as one piece, front and back. My finisher lined it with a little star fabric and tied it with a little rickrack at the top and then just stuffed it with fiberfill. So that's kind of a unique finish. This design is actually, it could be finished as a sweet bag or it could be finished as a flat ornament. So that one is in book number 4. And let's see, where is book number 4? I've shown you that dozens of times, so I won't show you that again. So this is another ornament. It's a new one, actually. It's a little, looks like a Williamsburg basket to me. And again, the finishing on this, it's mounted on a flat board on the back with fabric on it. A second board here, which you can glue or stitch together. And then a third board with your actually finished stitching. I finished the edging on that with a little twisted cording and then used just a little ribbon for the hanger at the top. So that's in book number 4. And another design in that booklet. I'm trying to think, I'm always trying to give you the source of these, but I think this might have been in the 'Twas the Night series. So what it is, it's actually just a little Christmas scene. So in the background, there's a window with a wreath. There's a tiny little, like, dollhouse here, a little toy train, and a rocking horse. And those are just sitting on a little polka dot rug. And that's finished as a flat. That would be easy to finish. It's just a square. So your 2 squares would be glued together or sewn together. And then I just used twisted cording for the edging. I have a couple more, and this one is from one of the villages, the Christmas Village series, which I'll have to show you sometime. It's a little schoolhouse, and the reason I chose this as one of the ornaments to include is that I think all of us know quite a few school teachers, and I thought it might be fun to give this to one of the teachers in your life. And so again, you could put a year on it, your initials on it. I just finished that with a little pom-pom trim on the back and then lining. This is very similar to the other design that I showed you that is mounted with 2 discs sewn or glued together and then a 3rd disc with the design on it. And I believe this might have come out of the 'Twas the Night series too. Also, and then here's another one, a little sleigh finished with pom-pom trim. These are all in book 4. And then the last one I have to show you from book 4 is a tiny little Christmas tree that actually was taken out of a design called Petite French Stockings, which is out of print. So you can see what that looks like. I kind of did an adaptation of that one. So have I overwhelmed you with ornaments? I'm sure I have. I'm already at 34 minutes. So I have 3 other things to show you in my Christmas theme. And let me grab those real quickly. I'm going to have to move my flowers out of the way. I think everyone who does Flosstubes tries to figure out how to have everything that you need right at hand, which is a tricky tricky to do, to have it close by. So last year I designed, I'm going to show you 3 other Christmas designs, not ornaments, just 3 designs that I did. So this design was called Dashing Through the Snow. And it was so much fun. I got so carried away with stitching this, I actually ended up stitching 3 models. So this particular model, and you're going to see how different they look depending on the fabric that's chosen. So this was stitched on a polka dot fabric. And I believe that's from Zweigart. Let me look at the back to double check. Yes, it's called Petty Point Linen. Stitched it, and it's a 32 count. Then I also stitched it, as I say, I got carried away. I stitched it over one in blue. And I'm quite a blue fan, as you know, and I'm sorry for the glare here, but I loved the way it turned out. It's actually quite small. It's only about that big, but it's just a sweet little pillow. You could do it in any color, of course. And then the third model that I stitched of this, I have to show you. And again, I did another variation. So this was stitched on a red, I believe 28 count linen. Let me check. Yes, which is made by Witchelt. And I stitched it just in white floss and then finished it as a pillow. Now this is actually part of a series. And as I go along showing you Christmas designs, there are 4 designs I think that you could say are in this series that are use reindeer and trees and borders and all those kinds of elements. Tidings of Joy is in this series. Oh Christmas Tree is in this series. Joy Noel is in this series. Dashing Through the Snow. And then I'll have a new one to show you when I release my new things at the end of August. But I just love how that turned out. And I just chose a variety of ribbons and trims. And you could reproduce it, I think, by studying the picture in the booklet. So that's one Christmas design I wanted to share with you. Another one falls into the older category. I have to dust everything off. It seems like everything I pick up is got little fragments on it from other things that I've put on top. So this is called Santa's Sleigh Ride. And it was published, as I say, a while ago. It is published 11 years ago. I just love it because I think it would be so much fun to add children's names either here or along the top. I just think it would look so sweet. This is a frame from Classic Colorworks. They have a framing division, and I love their moldings because they always have such nice trims along the top, sometimes in the corners. So let me show you that book, and that looks like this, Santa's Sleigh Ride. This was stitched on a 28 count antique white opalescent linen. Try to get closer for you. It's kind of fuzzy there. And then the last design I want to show you that falls into the Christmas category is the Be Joyful. And this actually has 2 designs in this booklet. So there is the one with the joy on it, and there's also one that says Noel. And you know I love alphabets, and I loved this alphabet. It just has the most beautiful ornate lettering, and it was just so much fun to put it together. Actually, it was professionally finished. By putting it together, I mean designing it. But my finisher, again, did such a fabulous job. There's a board on the back. She put in a lot of batting on the front. She did a corded edge, and then added, of course, a little bow in the corner. But I just think it came out so beautifully. And I hang it, oh gosh, like on a cupboard door at Christmas time. It just looks so nice. So this is what the booklet looks like. And this was stitched on a 28 count, they both were, antique white Belfast linen. So now that I've overwhelmed you with Christmas things, hopefully inspired you, I have a couple other things to talk to you about today. I have prizes to give away at the end. I have, let's see, where did I put them? I knew I put them in a spot nearby. So every week, every time I do a video, I like to feature a couple of shops that are either new or that have a trunk show or that carry my products who are on my automatic. So this time I chose two shops. And if you know of any shop owner that would like to be featured, please let me know. I'd be happy to talk about them. The first one I'm going to talk about is called Barefoot Needle Art. And it is in South Carolina. It's a brand new shop. I've seen pictures of it online. It looks just darling. I actually wrote to the owner. Her name is Memory. Such a pretty name. And because she is so close to the shore, I asked her if she would be interested in seeing some of my seaside designs. And she was. So she has booked a trunk show. And I'm trying to think. It might be October. I'll have to look again. But here's her address and her phone number. I did not find a website for her. I'm sorry, I did not find an email address, which I'm sure she has, but she does have a website, so you could go and check it out. So if you're in the area and traveling this summer, I thought you might want to know about that shop. And then the second shop that I wanted to feature is Dying to Stitch, which has been around for a long time. It's owned by Ann and Pat. They actually have two businesses. Dying to Stitch is the name of their store, and they're in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I talked to Ann the other day to order some fabrics, and I said, oh, I'd love to come to your store. I bet it's fabulous. They also own R&R Reproductions, which is the company that dyes all their fabrics. So if you're traveling this summer and get a chance to go to a new shop, that's always so much fun to do. So they are in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So check them out. Ann is also on my automatic, which means that she receives every new title that I release. So that's one thing I want to mention. Sometimes people write to me and they cannot find certain titles. So I'm going to encourage you to write to me. Email is the best. And ask me where you could find this title, and I will try to give you a resource for it. It's possible that it is not there are very few copies of it left, but I might have copies in stock. You can also check out my website, which is jbwdesigns.com, and I have a shop on there with some of the older patterns that are listed for sale. The messaging doesn't work well, and I cannot tell you why. In fact, I have a favor because someone the other day sent me a message and said that there was an error in a booklet, and of course, every time I hear that, I want to make sure I correct it, but then I have been unable to find her message again. So if you happen to be a listener that knows that answer to that question, that would be really helpful. So I want to give a shout out to several Flosstubers who I couldn't have gotten here without them. And one is Chrissy of Finally a Farm Girl, and she and I have started talking on the phone. She is also designing. She's hoping to get into Nashville next year, and she is absolutely delightful. In fact, we're supposed to have a chat today, so I'm looking forward to that. And then, so she was wonderful about talking about my channel. Artie of the Vintage Stitcher did a fabulous job in her last video about featuring some of my booklets. Elaine of Annabella's, which is an Etsy shop, has also been so helpful. Annie of the Proper Stitcher, she and I have become friends and actually had a chance to meet. It's such a special community. I had no idea when I started this. I feel like I have new pen pals, I have new stitching friends, and I'm meeting all these wonderful people. And we try to be so supportive of one another, of what we're doing, of what we love. And I just feel that we're in such a special community of stitchers. So thank you. Thank you for being part of it. Look for an announcement in August. There's going to be a JBW stitch along. And as far as I know, this is the first one that's ever taken place. When I am able, I will tell you in the next video more about it and how to join. I'd love to have you be part of that group. So let's see, I have, what have I been working on? I've been stitching, I finished stitching 2 models. I'm almost done with a 3rd one. I need to do more finishing for my new designs for Expo in August, which is a wholesale market open to shops. It's an online show. So you will start to see pictures probably not until right before market of my new products. And then of course I need to proof the new charts. So this week I have prize winners. And again, I use the random number generator. My prize winners this week are Joyful 1226, Sharon S, and Kathy Eaton, E-A-T-O-N. And if you will email me, you can choose any one of the patterns that I featured this time, and I'd be happy to send it to you. And then my inspirational quote for the day. I always like to try to end on a happy note here. And this is for all of you, my kind viewers. I wish you a day filled with kind people, lots of smiles, and unexpected blessings. And that's how I feel about you all. You are a blessing to me. Thank you, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.